So George, in his opening comments, he spoke a little bit to the effects on some Superfund sites in the area, so I'm going to give a little more of a detailed overview. So I have two figures here. On the left is an overlay of the harbor estuary with the counties, the declared counties from the storm, and the red dots are all the Superfund sites within those counties. On the right side are the sites that are waterfront within the harbor estuary program. And I'll be talking about 6 of those today. So prior to the storm, EPA sent out some of our own staff, contractors, just to try to batten down the hatches at a lot of the sites and make sure that the damage was as minimal as possible. Since the storm, EPA has assessed all 150 remedial sites within the declared counties. There were 114 in New Jersey, 28 in New York, and then there were 8 additional in New York when Orange, Putnam, Sullivan, and Ulster were added to the declared counties. EPA does not believe that any site sustained any damage that would pose a threat to human health or the environment. We have collected additional samples at several sites in the community: Newtown Creek, Gowanus Canal, Passaic River, and the Raritan Bay Slab site. So I'm going to go through those and a couple of additional sites. So Newtown Creek is on the border of Brooklyn and Queens in New York. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's contaminated with various different things. There are different plants and factories and just general urban waterway pollution that we see. After the storm, EPA took 2 samples in the creek, one in the basement of a building that flooded on Eagle Street, and one from the creek itself. Levels of bacteria were high as expected with combined sewer overflows and things of that nature. However, the other chemicals, the chemicals that were tested rather, were below levels of concern or not detected. So, and I provided the web addresses for each of the sites that I'm talking about, and they'll be posted on the website as well for the harbor estuary, and that contains information on the site as a whole, and it also includes the Hurricane Sandy data. The Gowanus Canal in Brooklyn, New York, it's also another urban waterway. It's got various things going on: industrial discharges, runoff, the combined sewer overflows. EPA took 4 samples from the Gowanus Canal area, 1 sample from the canal itself, 3 from 2 different buildings that had been flooded. Again, levels of bacteria were quite high, but the chemicals that were analyzed were below level of concern or non-detect. The Berries Creek study area in Bergen County, New Jersey.
Laura,
yes.
Hold the microphone to some people in the back.
Is that better? Should I just hold it? Just hold it. Berries Creek study area. It's a part of the Ventron-Velsicol Superfund site, which is known as a mercury processing facility. There are numerous other sources of contamination to the area, non-point sources. Prior to Sandy, there were pilot studies, test plots that were set up within the marsh as part of the Berries Creek study area site. And while there was a great deal of flooding in the area, as a comparison between Irene and Sandy, in the Berries Creek Canal, which is one of the southern portions that is a tributary to the Hackensack River, in Irene, where there was, I believe, 6 inches of rain. I think it was 6 inches of rain, and they had, 9 inches of rain. There was a 6-foot surge, and after Sandy, there were only 2 inches of rain, and there was a 9-foot surge. So there was a larger surge from Sandy with a lower amount of rain. So there was quite a lot of flooding, but we didn't see any effect on the test pilot site. So that indicates that it's a pretty stable sediment environment. And this is a photo near the previous West Riser tide gate. The water did overtop the tide gate, and it did flood the Teterboro Airport nearby. And the Horseshoe Road Atlantic Resources site in Sayreville, New Jersey. It's on the south shore of the Raritan River. Both sites were contaminated by poor handling of waste materials. The site soils were impacted. It impacted the marshes and the river There was no on-site work at the time of Sandy, but EPA did visit the site on 2 occasions to ensure that previous cleanup work that was done in 2009, the soil cleanup work and wetland restoration, were not damaged, and in fact they were not. So again, we don't believe there is any threat to human health or the environment at this particular site. However, EPA is currently working on a survey of sediments, a bathymetric survey, as well as an aerial survey of the site in general to see if there are any design conditions that we need to take into account now before the remedy goes into place. And for more information, you can visit their websites. The Passaic River in Newark, New Jersey is associated with the Diamond Alkali Superfund site, which is a source of dioxin. Residences and commercial buildings near the river were impacted by the floodwaters. EPA obtained 1 sample from the river and 3 from residences adjacent to the river in the ironbound section of Newark. Levels of bacteria were high. Again, we're seeing a pattern with that. Additional chemicals were tested, and most were below levels of concern. However, arsenic, iron, and lead exceeded drinking water standards. Arsenic and iron were just barely above the standard. Lead was about 20 times higher than the standard, but keep in mind that the drinking water standards are based on drinking 2 liters of water every day for 70 years, which clearly is not the case with the floodwater, so we don't believe that there's any considerable threat to human health or the environment. And then the concentrations of contaminants in the river itself were below level of concern. Finally, the Raritan-based slag site in Old Bridge in Sayreville, New Jersey. Lead slag was used to build a seawall and a jetty there. EPA collected 4 samples at the site, 2 in a playground that was previously unaffected by the site contamination, and 2 within a restricted beach area that was closed off from the public. Results showed that lead in 3 of the 4 samples were below the residential cleanup number for lead of 400 parts per million. 1 sample in the previously restricted beach area, which already had contamination above 400 parts per million lead, was above that level. So EPA is taking additional samples this week. We're going out. It's about $750,000 to get a more detailed picture of where the material has moved prior to our remedy. And we'll also replace the fence and the signage to keep folks off those restricted areas until the remedy is in place. These are some photos. On the left is a photo of the scour from the storm. It took about, it's hard to tell, it's about 2 feet deep. Just pulled that out. And on the right side, this is an area we call the Area 5 beach. And you can see some slag pieces here and here that were buried in the sand previously and now have been revealed, which we knew there was a hotspot area. We just hadn't seen slag pieces, but now they've been revealed, so it makes our cleanup a little easier. And for more information, you can always visit our the EPA website, but it looks a little bit different now, and the recovery after Sandy is no longer there. It's somewhere around here. It just says recovery after storms, so you can click on that to get all the information on everything we've done.
Thank you.